November 10, 2025. This date might go down in history as the day the balance of power in the South China Sea was forever changed. Imagine a small David standing up to a Goliath, but this time, David is armed with a supersonic slingshot. That's exactly what happened when the Philippines officially unveiled its new BrahMos anti-ship missile unit. For years, the world has watched as Chinese vessels increasingly dominated the waters of the West Philippine Sea, often bullying Filipino fishermen and challenging Philippine sovereignty. But now, with a single decisive move, Manila has sent a clear message. The days of being a pushover are over. So, what does this actually mean? How can one missile system change a decades-long conflict? And what role did India play in this high-stakes geopolitical drama? In today's deep dive, we're unpacking everything. We'll explore why the BrahMos is considered one of the deadliest anti-ship missiles on the planet. We'll analyze how its deployment by the Philippines gives them a credible deterrent for the first time. And finally, we'll look at the bigger picture, how this move strengthens the U.S.-Philippine alliance and reshapes the entire security landscape of Southeast Asia. This isn't just about a weapons deal. It's about a nation drawing a line in the sand, or in this case, a line in the water. Stick around, because the story is more complex and fascinating than you might think. Let's start with the star of the show, the BrahMos missile. What makes it so special? To put it simply, it's fast, incredibly fast. We're talking Mach 3, or 3 times the speed of sound. Most anti-ship missiles that China operates, and frankly, most missiles in the world, are subsonic. They travel slower than the speed of sound. This gives a warship's defense systems precious time to detect the incoming threat, calculate its trajectory, and launch countermeasures, like anti-missile missiles or electronic jammers. But with BrahMos, that time window shrinks dramatically. By the time a ship's radar even registers the missile, it's just seconds away from impact. Its sheer kinetic energy upon impact is enough to cripple or sink even large warships. The missile also flies a sea-skimming trajectory, hugging the surface of the ocean at very low altitudes, making it even harder to detect. And it's not just a straight-line weapon. It's in its final phase. It can perform evasive maneuvers, making it a nightmare for defense systems to intercept. This combination of supersonic speed, altitude flight, bait, terminal agility is what makes military analysts call it a game changer. It was developed as a joint venture between India's DRDO and Russia's NPO Mashinostroyeen, and India has made it a cornerstone of its own naval strategy. By exporting it to the Philippines, India isn't just selling a piece of hardware, it's exporting a powerful capability, a deterrent in a box. For the Philippine military, this is a monumental leap in technology, bypassing decades of incremental upgrades and placing a world-class weapon directly into their hands. So, how does this one system create a credible deterrent? Let's talk about something called an anti-access area denial strategy, or a 2D. It sounds complicated, but the concept is simple. It's about making it too dangerous for an enemy force to operate in a certain area. For a massive naval power like China, the South China Sea has often been treated like their own backyard. Their large fleet of destroyers, frigates, and Coast Guard vessels can operate with relative freedom. But now, the Philippines can create a no-go zone. The BrahMos batteries, being land-based and mobile, can be hidden along the country's extensive coastline, particularly facing the West Philippine Sea. Think about it from the perspective of a Chinese naval commander. Before, you could sail your fleet with confidence. Now, you have to assume that behind any one of those thousands of islands, a supersonic missile could be waiting. The risk has suddenly skyrocketed. A single BrahMos missile could potentially disable a multi-billion-dollar warship. Suddenly, the cost of aggression becomes unacceptably high. This is the very definition of deterrence. It's not about starting a war. It's about making the other side believe that the price of starting one is just too steep. It forces them to think twice. It changes their entire operational calculus. For the Philippines, it means they don't need a navy as large as China's to defend their waters. They just need to make the cost of entering those waters prohibitively high. The BrahMos missile allows them to do exactly that. But wait, there's a plot twist. What if I told you this whole deployment wasn't just about the Philippines and China? What if it's a signal of a much bigger strategic alignment taking shape across the entire Indo-Pacific? We've talked about India's role in supplying the missile, but let's not forget the other major player in the room, the United States. For decades, the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty has been the bedrock of Philippine security. However, recent years have seen a renewed push to modernize this alliance. The U.S. has been a vocal supporter of the Philippines' rights in the South China Sea and has consistently stood in conducted freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's excessive claims. The BrahMos deployment fits perfectly into this revitalized alliance. American intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets, like satellites and patrol aircraft, can provide the eyes for the Philippine missile batteries. Imagine a U.S. Poseidon aircraft detecting a flotilla of hostile ships. It can then securely relay that targeting data to a hidden Philippine BrahMos unit, which then acts as the fist. This concept is called integrated deterrence, where allies combine their strengths to create a more powerful whole. It makes the Philippine deterrent far more effective and complicates China's planning even further. They're no longer facing just the Philippines. They're facing a coordinated defense network. This move also shows other Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam and Malaysia that there are viable options for pushing back against coercion, beyond just relying on diplomacy. So, we've covered the missile's power and its strategic impact. But the real story is about the people. For years, Filipino fishermen have had their livelihoods threatened. They've been chased away from traditional fishing grounds like Scarborough Shoal by larger Chinese vessels. The Philippine Coast Guard has faced constant harassment. These aren't just abstract geopolitical moves. They have a real human cost. The deployment of the BrahMos is a profound statement of national will. It's the government telling its people, we will defend you. We will protect our sovereign rights. It's a source of national pride and a boost to morale for the armed forces of the Philippines. For a nation that is often felt outmatched, this provides a tangible symbol of strength and resolve. It shifts the narrative from one of victimhood to one of proactive defense. This emotional and psychological impact, both within the Philippines and across the region, cannot be overstated. It's a message that resonates far beyond military circles. This brings us to the big question. What happens now? What does the strategic chessboard look like in 2025 and beyond? China will undoubtedly react. We can expect them to ramp up their own surveillance in the region, trying to track the locations of these mobile missile launchers. They might increase their own naval patrols or engage in diplomatic protests. But the fact remains, the military reality on the ground or on the water has changed. The Philippines has established a credible A2AD bubble. This move also solidifies a growing strategic convergence between India, the Philippines, and the United States, all united by a common interest in maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific. It signals India's arrival as a major defense exporter and a key security partner in the region. Looking ahead, we might see other Southeast Asian nations follow the Philippines' lead, acquiring similar systems to create their own defensive bubbles. This could lead to a more stable, multipolar security environment where no single power can dominate. The age of unchallenged naval supremacy in the South China Sea is likely over. The deployment of the BrahMos isn't an endpoint. It's the beginning of a new chapter in this long-running saga. The waters of the West Philippine Sea will remain a contested space, but now the Philippines has a much stronger hand to play. And there you have it. The deployment of the BrahMos missile is more than just a military hardware update. It's a strategic masterstroke that boosts Philippine deterrence, strengthens key alliances, and fundamentally alters the power dynamics in one of the world's most critical waterways. It's a powerful story of a nation taking control of its own destiny. Is it a brilliant move or a risky escalation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful and want to stay ahead of the curve on global security and military tech, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell.